is essentially the fact that these were absurd sort of jump cuts that I saw in real life. And these were just sort of, that tone of satire, that tone of kind of noticing something really ironic that goes on in our day-to-day lives was the interconnectedness. Apart from that, we did contemplate having some sort of a more obvious in the stories, either visually or otherwise. But we kind of dropped that idea because we thought there was enough going on already with 5 short, 2-minute pieces, 2 to 3 minute pieces. So we decided to just keep it to that. Yeah.
Gotcha. So this question is, well, I don't know how I want to quantify this question, or qualify, I should say, but I was very curious, what is the liquid that the gentleman in the first is trying to seemingly, I don't know, pitch or sell to the clientele customers?
Well, I don't want to put anything specific to it, to be honest, because we intended for it to be something that's, so he's obviously a salesman and he's been doing this for a while. And the idea is, we wanted to say something in terms of the color and what the politics of that is. But apart from that, I personally wouldn't want to put something more specific down to that. I wouldn't want to say this is what he was selling or that is what he was selling. But yeah, what he was trying to sell was as outdated in a sense as he himself was.
Gotcha.
That's the most I could give. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, from an actor's perspective, do you feel that there is a sense of responsibility, and or is it also kind of hard to approach that as far as, when there is such a, maybe in your head, whether, you in the end did so or not, that possibility of interconnectedness, are there things that you're taking into consideration from the other pieces, or are you acting independently completely of the story of your own?
Okay, so it's interesting. Smitha is on the call. Smitha is one of the actors in one of the films. Smitha, can you hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You want me to put on the
video? Yeah. And one of the things, just to, just wanted to quickly give a bit of a background that I remember when I narrated the story that she acted in. She also wanted to listen to the other stories. And she wanted to know what the other stories were and what she was sort of a part of in the larger sense. But I'll leave the rest to her. Yeah. Smitha, please.
Actually, I didn't really get the question. So if you could just rephrase that for me, that would be great. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. No problem. So my question was, when you're acting in something like this, essentially a combination of shorts that for all intents and purposes appear independent, do you feel a responsibility for the other vignettes for all intents and purposes as an actress, or are you operating completely in regard to your own?
Okay, so you mean to say with regards to the other stories, or in the story? Yeah, with regard to the other stories?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was important for us to understand, because as an actor, we come in to do a role, but it is important to understand what the director has in his mind. And keeping that in sense, if you have to take the flow from the beginning to the end, you need to have some sort of a complete flow within all these characters, all these stories in some way or the other. That's what I feel. So yeah, so I think it was quite important for us to know what exactly was going through Ajay's mind.
So I think as a cinema obsessive, one of my favorite things to see is blossoming and developing relationships between directors and actors. And I think it's wonderful when you can see that there is a sense of trust. And I think that probably comes pretty organically in a sense of this, because I think, frankly, in some ways, there must not be time to really consider that overly deeply when you're approaching a project like this. But can you and anyone else just kind of speak to, what was kind of the initial sense that you got working with him as a director? And had any of you worked with him before this, or was this the first time?
Are we having technical trouble? Can everybody hear okay? Hello? Hello?
I could hear that.
I can hear you.
Okay. AJ, can you hear okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody can hear. I'm just making sure.
Yes, I did. So I'll quickly chip into that. So as far as the actors were concerned, it was the first time I was working with all the actors, and they were working with me. And so obviously a huge amount of trust was put there. But like I said, each of the actors, I made sure that they understood the entire package, not just their 2-minute story. So that was something that we did as part of the design, that I wanted them to understand the overall tone of the film, rather than just kind of their piece. Yeah. Mhm.
So I certainly do have more questions, but I see that Cindy is here, so I would of course like to
know.
field the opportunity to her if she has some.
I didn't want to interject because obviously you're the boss here, Zach. Just so you know, everybody, Zach is part of my magazine team. He is one of 3. I think there's myself, there's Zach, and there should be another person that's doing the red carpet. Not today, but tonight, hopefully. There's been a lot of shifting with all of this. I want to say really super fast while I'm on here. Sorry that I'm late, but you can see I had to try to get dolled up. And hopefully I look red carpetish enough. I know it's a little bright, right? You're like, get the hell out of my face at 11. But that's the whole idea here. I mean, I have a makeshift. I mean, I can't tell you where we are right now, but I like the little red carpet thing. And if you could see, and I'll have Michael do this later, the panoramic thing. Marilyn Monroe is all over. Well, do you want to show? Let's give him a show. I'm going to show you where we are right now. I kind of tried to deck the place out a little bit. So if you look to your right,
Wow.
that's my Marilyn wall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it really is nice.
I know, well, it's taken years to collect. I collect angels and I collect Marilyn. And so Marilyn's very fitting along with the red curtain because I didn't have time to get an actual step and repeat per se with my logo. Now, if you turn the camera and you look up above here, that's where you have some of my classics. I'm a big Pacino fan. The Rat Pack is up there. Cary Grant is up there. So that's my kind of homage to the old days. And then if you look to your far left, you see we tried to jazz up our little movie buckets, but our tickets and our old school 8mm projector. So that's the best we could do. But you at least have a decent background. So before I ask my couple questions to AJ, just to remind everybody, the nominations will go out tonight in an email to you. Anybody that gets nominated will get a laurel as well. Awards ticket, as you know, you have to purchase prior to Monday night. Monday night at 8:45 is the award ceremony. And also, hopefully everybody reminded their cast, I am praying with all that I have. We have no technical issues. We do not fall behind today, etc. I'm trying my best here. But if we do, I'll keep you posted in the email as far as that goes. And Zach, thank you so much for getting up at the crack of dawn to do all of this. So jump cuts, as you know, I gave you a printer introspective panel the other day. So I'm going to ask you 2 hard-hitting questions. First of all, I was curious to ask, I know that where you're primarily based, but have you done screenings in other countries as well? And do you note that their filmmaking style and the way that they conduct business and do things is similar to your country? I'm curious because most of us don't ever get a chance to do screenings, let alone festivals in other countries, and even in yours a lot of times. So tell me about that culture a bit.
So, so Jump Cuts has traveled to a festival here, but otherwise, like I said, it has, when we spoke earlier, it has traveled to festivals outside.
Sure.
This is actually the first time I'm getting to interact with a festival team, and so on. So, you know,
I think we lost him.
When we made the film, we were quite sure that this was intended for a festival-going audience in that sense, at least in the Indian context, especially in the language that we made, you know, which is down south in a state called Kerala. I was pretty sure that it will communicate, it will be able to kind of reach to those people who speak that language. And outside of Kerala or in the other parts of India, I imagine that some of the cultural nuances might get lost, especially like, for instance, in the last of the stories, which is extremely rooted in that context where, I mean, just to, because it's everyone who's watched the film here, I suppose, for the most part, typically a coconut, you know, a guy who does that job would end up at an alcohol shop, you know, and like buy himself some liquor. And the question would be, you know, what are you up to? What are you doing, bro? You know, what are you doing? But what we're trying to do with that was, even if he was just having ice cream, people would still be like, you know, what's up with you? What are you doing?
Yes.
There's no escaping that question and that eye of the society, so to speak. So I feel like some of the cultural stuff, maybe I'm not sure how much that communicates. But certainly overall, I think film does have a pan-India appeal. Yeah.
Okay, my other question is both to yourself, of course, and to the cast or anyone else that's here with you. In terms of the movie itself, why is it that you chose to have such a small role in front of the camera? Like Danny, for instance. Danny's a one-man show in his case. You know, he's in front of the camera, he's the actor, he's directing himself, he's writing, etc. A lot of directors talk to me about how liberating it is to stretch themselves so far that they're in every capacity. So cast and crew, as well as yourself, would the crew have welcomed more of your participation in front of the camera? And where is your take on that? Or what is your take, I should say, on that, AJ?
This already is not fun in front of the camera, so I definitely like being in front of one. But having said that, I already feel like I do too many things as a producer, writer, director. Although, of course, on this film, I was fortunate to have two co-producers with me. But typically, I find that I'm already stretched enough. The other thing is, of course, Tanveer, who's on this call. Tanveer and I have been collaborating for over 10 years now, and I like the fact that collaborative aspect of filmmaking is what excites me. It's not just having an idea and sort of doing everything with it. It's having an idea and sharing it with a set of people with whom I've built sort of a relationship over the years, and then kind of doing something with it. Do you know what I mean? So that aspect definitely excites me. So would you like to pitch in on that? On anything else?
Sorry, you asked me. I'm sorry, your
Yes.
voice was not. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to add to that? Your experience in front of the camera?
Yeah. So I, for the first time in my life, I've been in front of a camera. Forget a short movie. I've been not on anything in camera. I've been quite, what do you call? I don't know. I've never been there. So for me, with Ajay as a director, when he came in, and I met him for the first time actually for this particular short film. For me, it was a completely new experience. I jumped into it only because I wanted to do something new, and as I went through it, I think as a director, he gave a lot of comfort that you're just in your space, and I think that's what it was all about. It was just a matter of having fun, and I'm glad that it has reached wherever it is and it's going places. So, yeah, Ajay, I guess I'll credit to you on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess, go ahead.
So yeah, just wanted to add that Smita, like she mentioned, we've met for the first time for the narration of this film, and it was through the co-producer of this film, Sharmila, who when she heard the story, she said, "I know somebody who'll fit this role, and let's go meet her." And then we went right to her office. She's an architect, Smita, so we went to her office. We narrated the story, and yeah, she heard the entire thing. She said yes immediately. So I think that's where the collaboration, otherwise, my own options of people who can do this and so on perhaps be very, very limited. And I think that's the exciting thing about making film versus just, let's say, writing or painting. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. Last question for you, because I know those of you that are in the room may or may not know this, but I know you already have a distribution deal in place. Obviously, you did your screening here. So what's the hope now for Jump Cuts? Where do you want to see it go? What's going to be the next step for y'all? Where would you like to see this down the road or in the next couple of months, per se?
Well, yeah, so I really hope that that I'm able to do some private screenings of the film, or at least some screenings of the film here in India, where with students of film and otherwise, where I think the more topical aspects of the film can be picked up. I think its role as a piece of cinema through these festivals and all of that has sort of reached an end. And a good end, like I said, 8 festivals is not a bad run. Like I mentioned earlier, is 8 more than we were expecting. So, but from now on, I think I really hope that we're able to do some more screenings and have some conversations around what the film is saying. I think that's where I would like the film to go. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'll leave it on this note because we have to move to our next panel, but this is what I will want to say to you. In the time that I last spoke to you until now, I was able to make some adjustments. So I'm doing another film event in 2 weeks. And so I was just going to ask you if maybe you would allow me to screen and panel you one more time at one more event of mine this month.
I'd be more than happy to. We'd be more than happy to. Yeah.
I like it. I like yes. Yes is always a good thing. I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, so we will wrap with you guys. I believe Rock of Gibraltar is next. Do I have Mr. Ferris and Will and Seth here?
You have Mr. Ferris and Will.
Oh my God. I can't see you though. Can I see you folks?
For it.
I'm waiting for it. I'm scared to see Will. He scares me. Just so you folks know, Rock of Gibraltar is our next screening, as a matter of fact. When the red carpet all gets done and finished, then we kick over and we actually show the Rock of Gibraltar, which is, of course, Mr. Ferris's production. So it's kind of cool that we get to have him on the red carpet first and ahead of time. Will, Will, and I'm not drinking. This is my coffee. Michael created the project. Will is his bad guy. In fact, I told Will before he came on here how afraid I am of him. It's kind of like my significant other who I'm afraid of. He's a lot of bad guys sort of thing. So, Zach, I'm going to let you start off to begin with Michael and Will with a couple of your questions, and then I'll chime in.
Michael, it's nice to see you again. And
Yes.
Will, it's nice to meet you. Ah, here he comes. Okay.
There he is. There's dude. Look at, doesn't he look evil though? I mean, look at how evil he looks. He's scaring me right now. I'm gonna back away from the camera, like right over here. Sorry, go ahead, Zach. Just gonna sit here in agony.
No problem. So, you know, it was interesting. This is my second time seeing the Rock of Gibraltar, and it was a pleasure the first time and a pleasure the second time. So, you know, as Deacon, this story is pretty centric around your character, of course. You know, what was something that you enjoyed going into that role, and what was something that, you know, made you perhaps a little apprehensive or even perhaps a little frightened of a frightening character?
I really wasn't frightened about anything. I enjoy being the bad guy. It was fun. I mean, you kind of, when you're the bad guy, you kind of can do whatever the heck you want. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's kind of liberating when you can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about the consequences, really. You know?
Excellent.
Definitely.
So, Michael, if I remember correctly from the last time that we met, or the first time we met, did you say that the majority of actors in this film were just friends of yours versus working professionals?
Yes. The kind of core group of guys that were in the film, and then two of the three female actresses were college or high school friends. And then Will grew up the street from me. He's my brother's age, and they were best friends and are best friends. And then as we kind of got the movie going, I made contact with a casting agent in Northwest Arkansas, which is not too far away from us, and Will lives up there. And he was able to help me meet and work with working actors and folks who are pursuing acting professionally.
So
the supporting actors and you know the players who come in and you know for one or two scenes, but they're elevating each scene because they all have such a different character and uniqueness to them. Were all brought in via the casting agent, the gentleman that I knew from Northwest Arkansas.
So this is kind of a question for both of you. You know, Will, you said that this was something you enjoyed and was a liberating experience. Had you ever considered acting in anything before? And Michael, did you feel that, you know, non-actor actors brought any kind of, you know, organicness or perhaps settled into the roles a little more naturally?
I've done a few. Mike has made some films before that I'd been in, and I enjoyed it. Kind of got a taste for it, and this was kind of a bigger deal as far as the role. It was exciting. It kind of became a bigger role as it progressed, you know. Yeah, it was a good time. I'm glad we got to do it.
Can I jump in really quick? I just have a quick question to Will, because I was just listening to you talk about you can do whatever you want. So, Will, you have a significant other, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my question to you. The other day, my significant other actually, you know, he's done a lot of creepy roles, but recently he did this very recent creepy role, and I have never been disturbed. So this is the first time where literally I looked at him, and it was very hard for me to distinguish between my guy and the guy in the character. So with your significant other, is she ever like, ew, this is just like too creepy? You know what I mean? Like, does she ever have an issue with you being such a bad guy? I'm just curious.
Did you ever have an issue with me being such a bad guy?
I like that you're bad.
She liked it. I think she liked it.
You're sexy to a certain point, but in this one, it's like when they start doing macabre things, it's like, oh. So I was just curious about
Right,
that.
macabre would be a little bit. Yeah, that's.
See, Michael, they're agreeing with me. Macabre ain't pretty. When it
Right.
gets to the macabre, it's like it's not right. Thank you very much.
If it's too pretty, we didn't do our job, right, Will?
What was that?
If it's too pretty, we didn't do our job.
Well, yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right, so fine, it is what it is. My other question to you, and I'll let you go back to Zach. You all have somewhat of an accent in person, but I note that when we watch the movie, it doesn't see there seems to be no accent whatsoever. So how did you mask that? Because I think that's so cool. I'm like, it's so fun how actors can jump in and jump out dialect wise.
I think I tried to have some sort of accent with Deacon, and I tried to keep it consistent. You know, it took us a while to make this movie, and it might have changed a little bit in and out through the movies, you know,
Sure.
somewhat. But we tried to keep it the same. I don't know. I guess because we were trying to do that other accent, you couldn't hear our Kansan accent, I guess.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I get you. No, it just was funny to me because I was like, okay. And the other thing is, I know, Mr. Ferris, that every time you come to my platform, there are no women here. And I don't know, I'm a chick. I'm like the only chick that's ever here when we're doing panels and screenings. So where's the love for the female actors?
I love female actors. I love females. And I actually
answer.
have 2 movies I'm writing. There's one big role for a female, and then the other one is like a romantic comedy. There's 3 or 4 big roles for females, and with the Rock of Gibraltar, it started as a short film, which was basically Will versus Jason, hero versus villain, which evolved into me structuring around a feature. When we're following the bad guy and his gang, and then we're following kind of the police world, there weren't a lot of opportunities for me to necessarily slip in females, except when I tried to go into the tropes, the crime tropes of, the femme fatale with the Cynthia Kane, the brunette gal who is in the scene at Miller's Inn, or the sister of the detective, who is again a little bit of a trope, the loved one of the fallen hero that is kind of being taken care of by the surviving partner. And then ultimately she ties in, the sister Victoria King ties into the climax, and resolution, and
Yes.
and bringing the 2 together there at the end as he kidnaps her. And but for this particular story, I was, practically speaking, I also only know a few female actresses, and in writing it, I just write towards what I know I have access to. And as I go forward, the gentleman that I know and have met in Northwest Arkansas, the casting agent, he has a ton of female actresses that I know that he works with, and so I will be talking to him and trying to cast future productions because I'd like to round out our stuff more.
Absolutely. Now for the panel today, are any of the girls joining us? That's the other thing, is I kind of don't really ever get the female actors' perspective from the movie because I haven't had them be a part of this. Do we have any luck today with the girls coming on?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay, don't be sorry. You guys are like way more than enough and like terrifying enough for me. I think like 5 of you would like freak me out to no end. So that's perfectly fine as far as that goes. Okay, Zach, I'm going to stop talking so you can talk. I'm kind of just a figure here for now. Go, boy. You're doing great.
Thank you, Sydney.
Go.
So, Michael, and I think, Will, this question pertains to you as well. If I remember correctly, it took 6 years to finish the feature interpretation of Rock of Gibraltar. Were there ever times where you kind of felt the passion wavering over such a long period, or were you always immediately ready to get back into it?
Oh yeah, sure. I wanted to strangle Michael. Of course. Yeah, there was times where it's like we got to go do this again. We've shot this scene 500 times. But it always, once we got together and once we got going again, it all kind of came back together, and then that passion came back, and it was good. Yeah.
I'll say for me, the passion didn't waver, although I did feel at times that we would never finish it. But I felt like as the leader and spearheading it, I couldn't afford to lose the passion because I had to inspire Will and Jason to continue to come out. And if I wasn't ready to give a speech about how I swear we're almost finished, this is the last one, 2 or 3 years, in a row there for the final 2 or 3 years, I just kept saying, oh, it's so close, I swear we're almost done. If I wasn't prepared to truly believe that and have that passion, then I couldn't lead them. And the final year that we were making it, it was Will and Jason both were basically like, it was like a come to Jesus meeting for me. Like, dude, you gotta figure out a way to wrap this up, and we did. That's the necessity of it. I guess if they're finally calling me out on it, we better finish it. So it was definitely a long 6 years, but I'm very proud of the product we have.
I have a question. I'm just raising my hand so that you see, Zach. I'm just popping in here. So we talked about this the other day, so I'm curious to ask the same question. When you are close friends with someone and you work together in this particular situation, talk a bit about that, because a lot of people that come onto these panels have good working relationships and personal relationships, and sometimes that can get tainted or just tugged at a bit when you're on a set and it's elongated and all that good stuff. So how do you keep it together so well? I mean, are there times where you're just like throwing stuff across the set, like, I can't do this right now, I need to go? You know what I mean?
Oh, sure, yeah. We would have little spats and whatnot.
Okay.
But we do that anyway as friends, and we would have our spats. We'd have a little fist fight and it'd be over, and we go back to it. That's just how it worked.
Will threw pillows at my legs while I ran when I was little. So there's a long history of
Violence.
friendship and violence between us. So
Friendship and violence,
Yes.
healthy.
and I feel very comfortable with communicating with him and Seth, who is Seth plays Vincent Floyd and is his law partner, and I've gotten a chance to get to know and become friends with over the course of the 6 years we were making this. I spoke to them more candidly than I did others on the set, and I do think that sometimes that might have that potentially helped, because in the same way that a coach in sports, they may get on one of their best players to kind of set an example. I can be a little bit more cavalier with Will or Seth, and folks will know, hey, we need to be serious. We need to try to get this knocked out.
I got one more question, then I'll zip to Zach for anything else. And this is collectively for both Seth and for Will. Working with Mr. Ferris, tell me what keeps drawing you back, and more importantly, what have you learned from him, or what has he told you he's learned from you?
Mike's very creative. He's got some good ideas, and he truly loves doing this. It's what he's always wanted to do since he was just a little kid. I remember him making movies at like the age of 12 or something, and he'd be in his parents' house making some crazy ass movie about aliens or just whatever, and we'd watch it, and it was cool. I mean, he researches this stuff. He reads books. He truly loves it. I didn't know anything about making movies or how it worked, and just the whole process, watching it and seeing how it comes together. We would be in a scene doing something. I'd be like, how's this going to work? You're not going to be able. This is not going to work. It's not going to look right. It's going to be ridiculous. To be like, don't worry about it. He'd put it together with the editing, send it like the next day, and it'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just things like that. Stuff that guys like me that aren't actors or do this, professionally or whatever, we don't understand that until we see it. It's like, this isn't going to work, Mike, and it always did. So I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And Seth, what about you? In terms of, is there anything that you've learned from Mike, and collectively, is there anything he has said, hey, you know what, I'm better professionally, or you've upped the bar for me because? Can you hear me, Seth?
I've learned everything I've learned about. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I suspect everything I've learned about the movie making process came from Mike.
Oh.
So the whole thing's been a thrill for me.
Oh, nice.
To be able to be a part of it. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Let Zach finish, because I get you for the panel, obviously, after the feature, so you don't need to talk to me. Zach, do you have anything else before we head over to Mr. Welch and Mr. Gentili for the Roonies?
Yeah, Seth and Will, what is, for something that, Willis said he has enjoyed. Seth, it sounds like you enjoyed as well. What is the mental preparation for going into being that bad guy, especially, when you're kind of on the opposite of that, it sounds like professionally in your real lives?
Yeah, I'm a defense attorney, so I kind of get to deal with the bad guys. You know what I mean? But I don't see the bad side of them. I see the aftermath. Once they've calmed down, cooled down, or whatever, and they've been caught, and they want to be forgiven. You know what I'm saying? I mean, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, Zach. Anything else?
I don't know. I like playing the bad guy. I think that's easier to do than playing a good guy.
Oh, I like the good guys. The good guys come in and save the day, but bad guys have a purpose too.
Yeah, the bad guys are really
Hear me all right?
Right?
Well, and I think it's interesting, Seth, because, your character, Vincent, is essentially kind of, Deacon's voice of reason, as much as a syndicate second in command can be, and you kind of have to try and, I don't know, I guess it's like the handler trying to calm down a boxer who's throwing too many jabs in the ring. I mean, how is that? Did you ever find, like, in character that could be challenging, or you kind of wanted to, like, let him run a little more free, or was it kind of nice to have that sense? Please stand by.
One moment, please. Does anyone sing? Do, 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 do. Michael sings. Can you sing us a little something? Oh, actually, Michael, come here. Since we're on a 30-second thing. So Will and Michael Ferris, come here, please. So see this right here? What would make me very happy, Mr. Ferris, is if you took him and you took Will and you wrote something and then both of them were bad together. And then I could be scared shitless of both of them.
I like.
It'd be fun.
It sounds like a
Yeah,
plan.
no, I don't think that's fun. Why can't somebody give him Pete gave him a comedy role. Somebody give him a comedy, for God's sake. But anyway, that's
Nice, though.
He's not that nice.
Who would be more evil? Will, I vote for you.
You have more experience of being evil.
great, isn't it? Said no one. Anyways, back to you, Zach.
Sorry
Seth,
about
actually,
that. I had a connection issue there. I
That's okay.
apologize.
That's
No
okay.
worries.
You want to repeat it, Zach?
Yeah, Seth, I don't know if you caught this or not, but, being the kind of temperament and or, cool off guy for Deacon and Will, did you ever find that you wanted to just let him go running free? Did you enjoy being the voice of reason? Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess it was. There's a level of frustration as the character because he's a monster, and you want him to do the right thing, but I know he's never going to do it. So you feel that conflict, that internal conflict, to want to walk away from the situation. So yeah.
I'll say that I appreciate that analysis because definitely. I don't know how much I telegraphed that, but that Seth is absolutely Deacon's wrangler, and James Thursby's character, played by my roommate and best friend Chris Bell, is his enabler. He's kind of and Deacon turns more and more to him over the course of the movie because he's getting what he wants to hear from James Thursby. And Seth is going further and further the other way, and then of course they have their final showdown at the end. I think also probably professionally and friendship wise, there's some similarities or parallels to Seth having to wrangle Will in various situations. So there, I was potentially drawing on some real life inspiration as well for that.
Well, yeah, and I've known Will since law school. We went to law school together, and interestingly enough, in real life, people used to say I was the biggest asshole out of the two, but it seems that the tides have turned, and Will is now the biggest asshole, both in the movie and in real life.
Our first explicitive, unless it's not even noon and we're swearing already. Okay, thank you, Rock of Gibraltar. We have to move along to House Arrest Rooney's. And before I forget, Anna, it's so nice to meet you virtually. I can't see your face, but the cast of Last Christmas Party is here. So happy to have you here. Danny, thank you. Judy, I can't thank you enough for the love you're giving me. I'm liking this loving. It's so sweet. Hello, 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 everybody who is here. I can't thank you enough for coming. We're running behind as usual, but what's new? The next panel, of course, is House Arrest Rooney's, who is showing today as part of the comedy block. We have Another Day in Manhattan, and then we have the House Arrest Rooney's. Peter is here. I'm going to put Michael right next to me because, of course, Peter and Michael work together. Not just Michael has a role, but he's also a producer in this. And, of course, Peter is the mastermind behind the entire project. So I'll be interviewing both of them. Zach and I will be doing both. So I'll start a little bit. So let me ask the both of you. When you put this concept together, you envisioned this for television. So I was curious to get your take, both of your takes on why try to do a television pilot versus turning it into a short or a feature.
Well, actually, the show is based on one of my plays that was done off Broadway in New York. So it is actually based on, I guess you would say, feature-length piece. At the end of that play, I felt, boy, there's something more. There's more of a story here. It can continue on the way The Odd Couple continued on.
Sure.
After Neil Simon wrote that play. So it really did come from a big source. Not enough. It wasn't initially, the characters, the story was not initially conceived for the small screen.
Okay, I've got you. Now, Pete, of course, I know that. Oh, I'm sorry. I should let Michael answer. You are not normally always in a producer type role. You're typically an actor. And so tell us a bit about what made you want to be a producer on Peter's project, and more importantly, what did you learn? Because this genre for you, television as a whole, is not something you've delved in a lot.
Yeah, well, Peter invited me to do the stage reading. What was that, Peter, about a year and a half ago at this point?
Oh, no. It was
Two?
maybe more than 2 years ago. Yeah.
2? Let's settle for 2, but these things take forever at all different levels. And I was certainly glad to be invited. I was going to go anyway just to see it because I love the concept. The tagline is what? A quarantine comedy about justice without peace. And that was written, of course, long before this whole damn thing started up. But something about it just struck with me, and I said, "This is damn funny." And it does have the elements to continue as a family torturing themselves in the tradition of All in the Family and all those great comedies, just where people are stuck with each other. As you know, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And I just really enjoyed those elements. And I said, Pete and I would talk numerously about different projects and what to push. Peter's always writing and on to the next thing, plays, mostly theater, but screenplays as well. And I just said, Peter, I don't know, this thing stuck in my head. Originally, Jerry Springer was attached, and Lev Gorn, and some people come and go, of course, when you're workshopping things and getting it out there. But we kept getting back to it, and I said, Peter, this is damn funny, and it's got all the elements self-contained to just be a delightful, continuous comedy. So I said, yeah, let's re-examine it. And then one day we all just said, let's go ahead, let's shoot a pilot, let's get it out there and see what sticks. So here we are.
Now I'm curious, I'll have Pete, you start first. Of course, both of you are in the movie and in individual roles. So tell me first, Pete, a bit about your role, and then Michael about your role. And how is it that do you feel comfortable in your own shoes in the roles that you've picked to play?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very comfortable in it. My role is, basically the premise is that the son, the eldest son of this family, helped the father fake his own death to get away from the mother. Who had been, his wife, who had been smothering him for years. That's what he felt, and the father felt anyway. And, after the kids were raised, they're out of the house, they're adults, they have their own adult life. He felt it was time to get away. And, the son felt some empathy for him. So the son helps him in this, in this pursuit. But then the father gets caught. And 5 years on, he gets caught, and so subsequently the son also gets caught, and they're both sentenced to house arrest in this house that they both have their whole lives have always wanted to escape from. So there's the irony of now they're stuck there. with the person they tried to get away from.
Gotcha.
Not that there wasn't love for the person either. It's just that they were just very trying to live with this person. It was very difficult to live with this person day to day. And my character was always kind of like the black sheep of the family. The show takes place in Albany, New York, but my character had lived in New York City for years and years and years, downtown, Chinatown, Lower East Side, kind of like the hip, areas. He's a spoken word poet. So for him to have to go to Albany, be under house arrest with his mother, in a completely different, like so diametrically opposed, worldview from what he has adopted as a person, as an adult, is extra frustrating.
Sure. Michael?
I love the Peter Ustinov line, which is comedy is a funny way of being serious. So I play Officer Charles, who is Will's friend from high school. Probably not intrinsically an ideal friend, but they've just known each other since they were kids. And my character is rooted in resentment and jealousy of Will, who was always the artist and the smart one, and all those just great elements that lend themselves to comedy. Even if it's a drama, there's something funny about somebody just with lingering resentments. And so I really enjoyed that. And it was just so simple to play that off, just play the reality of it. And then as a court officer, when at the very beginning it starts with the trial and Will and his father get sentenced to house arrest, which is the premise of the whole show, I specifically asked my partner to transport Will to house arrest myself so I can stick it to him a little bit.
Imagine that.
So we have this nice long chat with poor Will in handcuffs in the back when I read him the riot act about how he's just blown his life. And I got it going on after all. But that's
It also plays into my character's aggravation that I've got to hang out with this guy again. You know what I mean? If this is a guy that I thought was beneath me growing up intellectually, he barely got out of high school, and I went to NYU on a scholarship. My character went to NYU on a scholarship, just high-minded, goals in life. And now I'm under his thumb to a certain degree. I'm wearing the ankle bracelet. If I slip outside and go too far off the property, he comes and puts me back in my place, and he loves it because he's always, been a little jealous of me. Now he's a lot. Yeah, exactly. So payback for him, so he gets to really put the screws to me, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it. And this guy owns like 3 houses, like he flips houses. My character is spoken word poet. I got no money. I was living in a Chinatown basement before I got, busted for, with a, in a converted, supposedly art studio. You know what I mean? That's where I was living, with a jerry-rigged, toilet. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's the whole humiliation, of having to, the only thing I had going really, for my ego was, I lived in New York. That's cool. No,
this is an official endorsement of the artistic lifestyle.
Right. I got Officer Charles busting my balls all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And my mother. So.
No, I often say I wish I could have been more content just being a carpenter or an electrician. I might do some of that work on the side, but just to have a normal business, a normal living. There's a lot to say about that. You sacrifice a lot, being an artist and living in a Chinatown basement. Things may click, they may not. It's a huge, huge roll of the dice for all of us, and Will pays the price for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Zach, go ahead. You can jump on in.
So, something that I think can be not appreciated as to the level of difficulty that it is writing comedy, especially writing consistent comedy. So can you just speak to kind of how this idea came to you and just kind of the process of writing a comedy and or comedy in general?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it's based on a play of mine, and the play was more serial comedy. You know what I mean? So it wasn't an outright comedy. It had a lot of a lot of dark elements to it, you know, that could be funny at times, but you know, it had more mystery, and it was more like James Joyce, you know, or you know, Eugene O'Neill, like, you know, so that style, you know, maybe like Wilderness is like maybe O'Neill's comedy, you know, that, but it wasn't, you know, so it didn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is it didn't come to me as a comedy, but then to transfer it to television, I didn't really see it as a serious drama, you know, either, like an hour long, and so the more shows that I watched, the ones that spoke to me were like Arrested Developments, you know, then of course All in the Family, the classic, you know, Soap, the classic ones from the 70s. But I always felt those old, like especially those old Norman Lear shows, read like plays. I mean, they were funny, but they weren't always funny. They didn't always have to be funny. Every other line didn't have to be a gag. You know, there was something a little bit more, you know, fully rounded about the characters. You know, so I kind of see this as is in that tradition. You know, so it's not going to be quite as maybe as riotous as maybe some of the newer sitcoms are. You know, we'll see. You know, like once we really put it into production, like, you know, full out. But that's kind of how I see it. You know, so maybe not. I don't know if in contemporary terms, I don't know if you would call it a comedy even. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, that's one of the lingering questions after producing and watching the pilot 100 times over is how much to play the outrageousness of the situation. I mean, this family really is a piece of work, but it's rooted in a reality of real relationships and real circumstances. So that's always the question. I think a show like All in the Family got a really nice note where they, you know, Archie Bunker is one of the most outrageous people in TV history, but they knew exactly, Norman Lear was a genius because he knew exactly when to tune in on a very, very relevant social issue, real family, real emotions, real circumstances. So it's a delicate balance. And anybody who's in for the comedy block later at 5:30 who has anything to say at all, we would certainly appreciate any input on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Zach, you have 2 more questions, then we'll move on to our final panel.
Okay. So, Michael, it's been a real treat. I did not know that you were going to be in House of Restaurants when I was watching it this morning, which I really enjoyed. So thank you, gentlemen, for working on that. And
Absolutely.
can you just speak to, you know, range as an actor and how you approach a comedy versus the other role that I saw you in Hollow, which certainly had some comedic aspects to it, but of course was pretty much the direct opposite of the fast-talking, insult-jabbing, weed-smoking cop.
Court officer. He's too lazy at heart to be a full-fledged.
Yeah, he didn't
officer.
quite make the cop. He didn't quite ascend the ladder.
No.
But,
We never fully determined whether he was not qualified or he just wanted the easiest job possible.
being that it's Albany, he probably didn't have the right connections. That's really all you
Yeah, babysitting convicts is more his style. But on that note, I mean, it's you've seen the horror film Whispering Hollow Road as well, which I appreciate that, Jack, as you see, to me, there's always room for comedy. And it doesn't mean that the character is trying to be funny. It means that sometimes the reality is just absurd. And there's nothing wrong with making somebody laugh within the midst of something that's pretty predatory and horrible. Whereas with the comedy, I think, like I said with Peter Ustinov's comment, you don't want to play the laughs. You want to play the circumstances. You want to play the reality of it. So it's not that dissimilar. I just think that with comedy, you got to know when to turn it up a little bit, you know, where you do give it the zing. It's a delicate balance because if you overdo it, then you're just a guy trying to be funny, and that destroys the illusion of the character.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
agree.
Great answer. Thank you. So I am curious, you know, I think Well, I guess just so, what was the idea with, the spirit of the sun, and then I believe it was the granddaughter summoning Joey Ramone, which was such a delightful treat and totally unexpected. What was the thought process of including that?
Again, it kind of goes back to the whole Irish, like James Joyce, being haunted by your past, and and his son actually did die, and he died. In the play, it's revealed, and it'll ultimately be revealed on the TV show, that he was the perfect son. He was the son that did everything the mother wanted, right? But in doing that, he suppressed a lot of what he really wanted. He never really was able to discover himself. So that dichotomy and that conflict within, I think, broke his immune system down, made him susceptible to cancer, and he died very in his 30s. And so there's a little resentment now that he's a ghost.
More resentment.
Yeah, there's a lot of resentment in this. Yet at the same time, I think he really, he was somewhat close to his mother. I think he feels sorry for his mother. He sees her flaws and was able to accept her flaws better than my character was. So he's sort of an ally, but at the same time, there's that tinge of resentment, that, I listened to you and look what happened. Why did I listen to you? Why did I do what you wanted me to do? Why did I not do what I wanted to do? Why did I take the big journey that Paul, in my character, did? So that's what it's. A lot of this is rooted in my own history. Not exactly. So I can feel for a lot of these characters because I've kind of been one of them at one time or another. Especially within the context of the family. This mother's not that different than my mother. So,
for those of you that see it, that's that's an interesting compliment.
I wish I didn't have to say that, but I love her. Don't get me wrong, but it comes out of personal. A lot of this comes out of personal experience.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we have to switch over to Last Christmas Party before Michael Ferris yells at me because the 12 o'clock isn't starting on time. But that's okay. Thank you, gentlemen. And of course, we'll have a much more extensive panel today because we're showing the film. There's Julian. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous.
How you doing, Cindy?
I'm so nervous to see all you guys. I am so in love with your movie. I am so in love with your movie. I made him watch it. I've watched it, and I've watched it again. Then I watched it again the other night. I'm like an addict. I'm a junkie. I'm not lying about this. I'm seriously addicted to the Last Christmas Party.
I'll leave you to it.
Thank you. Oh, I guess we're switching. Okay. He'll be, Okay. So thank you, Michael. And thank you, Pete, of course. And please.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, there's so much to ask, and I don't want to give away the panel too much. But first of all, let me just start off by saying I'm so impressed. You're a younger filmmaker, admittedly. And as a younger filmmaker, you've put together such a big production. When I say big, I mean big on storylines, big on cast, big on, oh my gosh, you're giving me my Manhattan back, my whole New York sort of, we miss that so much, just the way New York was and the way it is now, you're giving me a great glimpse of that. So talk to me a bit about being young and being what I would imagine is overwhelmed, putting together something that's so huge.
Yes. Well, I guess we were just terribly reckless after graduating from NYU that we just decided, hey, instead of doing like a thesis short, why don't we just jump into a bigger project? Because the co-writer Kevin and I had been working on a script for a while, and we thought if we're able to just get the script polished out and just really focus on this for a few months, maybe we can do it. And so, I was like, I just took a part-time job so that way I could have time to focus on this. And yeah, it was just a lot of pre-production just because, every kind of, bit of budget that you don't have, the compensation is that you need to work 10 times as hard for that. That it's just like, okay, I don't have, infrastructure to do, to have an assistant or whatever. But that's fine because, the film still needs to get made. And yeah, I mean, we got a wonderful group of actors like Anna and James are here, who are just very dedicated to rehearsing and just making sure that when we actually got in front of the camera, everything was already running smoothly. They knew their characters, they knew their lines, and that we could play around a lot and, get a lot of coverage that, the editor, Ben, who's also here, could play with. So. yeah, no, it was fun at the end of all things.
Did the casting call include the words, "You all must be attractive"? Hello, there's no one ugly in this movie. There's no one ugly. They never screw up a line. They're always on it. And the music is perfect. And I'm like, damn, nobody's this good at this. And I'm like, they're so not flawed. You're all so pretty. Come on. Seriously. Is that part of the
No, you know, we cast who was right for the role. And I think the actors just brought their usual charm and attractiveness to it. Maybe James and Anna, you want to talk more about your attractiveness?
Tell us how pretty you are.
Oh yes, well, that's one of my favorite topics, of course.
Like the crew was pretty too. It wasn't just the actors. Like everyone.
Oh my God!
It's not just.
I know, right? It kills me that, you know, you have such a perfect, and not only that, it's the pairing. Like when you look at the individual couples, etc., it makes sense. Like you could look at them and say, I could see them or I could see them. I am curious, was it always in your mind to do college, you know, versus having full-grown adults, maybe in their 30s, you know, like finishing off college late in life? You know, was it always this demographic that you were going to be shooting for, or did you have another idea? Oh,
no, it was absolutely always. That was the initial germ of the idea. That like Ben was with me when I first came up with the idea for the script. That I think I said like it's going to be a party and it's going to be college and there needs to be like 3 couples, maybe 4, like and that was, you know, where all this came about. Like Christmas came later, non-chronological came later, but like the idea of just like exploring romance like at our age, like writing from what we know, just really appealed to me a lot. And also was just like, you know, I don't see as many romantic dramas around like this area of a person's life. I either see like high school or I see like, you know, like you said, like early 30s and stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, you know, college romance is a mess. And wouldn't it be fun to capture that in a movie? No, it's utterly a mess. And it's like, yeah, let's put that on film.
Because you have a bunch of
less supervised.
You have a lot of that element, you know, where you're bouncing back and forth between, and I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but you're right in terms of those relationships. It shows all sorts of different sides. It's very real. Not to mention the fact, of course, I noticed that you were able to almost time out specifically equal time for each relationship to play out, which I thought was interesting. Not every filmmaker has, you know, a lot of times they can always emphasize on one more than the other, but it's perfectly well spaced out. But I want to ask the actors, when he came to you and he said, here is your portrayal, etc., and you're looking at the script and you're thinking to yourself, were any of these your own life experiences? Did you have to improv any of this, make any of it up? And how much of a stretch was it between your character and the real people that I'm looking at now?
Great question.
Thank you.
I think personally, like Caroline came very naturally to me. I've been involved with this project since like the very first table read, and when I found we were moving ahead with production, I like emailed Julian and I was like, let me come back and audition. I can't let this character go yet. So she came, parts of her came very naturally. Other times I just wanted to like take her little shoulders and be like, no, don't make the mistakes that I have made. But it was nice. It was nice to relive the college experience and look at it again with fresh eyes. And yeah, it was a joy. It was easy. And that makes your job so easy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've also been with the project for a long, long time. I had a bit of an interesting experience because the role that I played in the final product was not my original role. I was actually
I love that.
Originally in the role of Steven.
Oh.
Yeah, that was for the table read. I was a much different character. And I will say it was nice to come home. Charlie is a lot closer to who I am as a person, or I'd like to think so.
Sure.
I agree. And I've been lucky to not have a messy college romance like that. So that was a little bit of a departure, but you know, everyone goes through romantic troubles in their life.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't too hard.
Before I zip over to Zach, I want to ask, editing wise, you know, because Michael, of course, has done editing in the past, and sometimes I hear that it's somewhat of a headache. So I'm curious, when you have a big feature film, it's not something that's 15, 20 minutes long. editing has got to be a labor of love for you, because a lot of times when I talk to editors, it's either, oh my God, I hate this. I got halfway through and I'm done. Or on the other side of the fence, they're like, oh my God, I could do this for days and it was a perfect cut. So tell me a bit about that experience in terms of that, and how hands-on was Julian? Was he kind of standing side by side with you, or did he kind of give you the reins and say, you know what, make me a beautiful picture?
So I'll start off with saying this was definitely one of those where you just love editing it. The fact that it was nonlinear means I got to craft it however I wanted it to be, within reason. But like, I could be like, you know what? I think if I move this scene here, it'll really emphasize this. And I got to have so much fun with that. As to how involved Julian was, for the first draft, he just let me go at it, which was great for me. We had talked about the nonlinear aspect. It actually wasn't written nonlinear. So basically the entire structure for how it was going to play out in a nonlinear fashion was just word of mouth at that point.
Sure.
So I got to pick where a lot of the scenes went there. But then he and I are actually roommates.
Okay.
So when it came to actually editing the thing, he was very hands-on, especially towards the end. There's a lot where we were bouncing things off directly with each other. And then we did a lot of screenings just in our apartment, with having a bunch of friends over being like, what'd you like? What didn't you like? Both people in film and out of film, that kind of stuff. And that was a lot of fun, and that let us do reshoots. And I gotta say, as an editor, when you get to have a hand in the reshoots, it's an amazing thing, because it really, you can craft it just that much more. So this was a really fantastic editing process. I had a lot of fun with it.
Very cool. Okay, Zach, go for it.
Hi, everybody. So, first of all, it's just, I don't know, it feels like slightly surreal, I think, to meet the actors of a project like this when you're just have like kind of gotten to know this character for so long, because it is just that kind of a project. So that's very interesting. And in that vein, because this is such a dialogue heavy picture, can you kind of speak to the challenges of, trying to keep that engaging as an actor, but also as the writer director, kind of the same thing, but not, excuse me, from an in front of the camera perspective?
James, Anna, do you guys want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think the dialogue, is a gift from the writer to the actor. And so what you do with it, of course, is up to you and can lead to many different paths. But for me, it was really nice to work with Julian. He was very open to ad-libbing, improvising, or just, for the most part, we were sticking to the script, but every once in a while there was like, that doesn't feel quite right in the mouth. Like, do you mind if I say it just a little differently? And he was so open to that, which is really important. Yeah, it was nice to just bounce that off him, see what came back.
I would second that. It was a very collaborative film process, and I'm sure it might have caused Ben some headaches in the editing room later, but it was a very supportive environment in that. And if it was like the thought wasn't right, or it just like wasn't making sense in your brain, Julian was right there, and you could say like, can I try it differently on this next take? And he would be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, thanks. But like I had such a great cast that like we went through a very rigorous audition process. I think there were like 3 rounds and 1,000 applicants, something like that. Wow. And basically, we really wanted to find like not only 6 people who were like individually talented on their own, but who could really work together well. That we even did chemistry tests and stuff like that. And I think like, just rehearsing together for like, we rehearsed for like a month, 2 months, just really, helped solidify that like friendship dynamic and that relationship dynamic that like, I think is what makes the film strong. So it's like, when Charlie says a line to Caroline, you feel like the baggage of their friendship in all the possible ways. That again, I really believe in rehearsing and just making sure everything is as finesse as possible, if you have the time. So that way, I think it paid off on screen.
Excellent. So that actually makes me think of another question, James and Anna. How do you kind of develop that sense of chemistry for the friendship role? I mean, are you holding hands skipping down Broadway, or just trying to get to know each other on set a little bit? Can you just speak to that in a little more depth?
Well, I feel like James and I cheated because we knew each other from the very first table read.
That's right.
It's it's cheating a little bit. But even like not for us, like for our relationships with the other actors, we only got to know them through rehearsals and also just being on set for 8, 9, 10 hours. Has its own special bonding of being in another room and trying to be quiet, but also like trying to work and get to know people. And again, everyone went in with such like open hearts, open minds that it just made the work really easy for us. Everyone has their own process.
I would definitely speak to the enormous benefits of eating food on set. You're not shooting, having these meals with the cast and crew provides just this built-in bonding process. And whether it's the actual, meals you're having or it's the little fruit snack packs that you're trying to eat.
We ate so many fruit snacks.
In the corner. It's
granola bars.
To meet people. I mean, I definitely went and I wanted to know everybody's name. I asked the crew members. Probably wouldn't remember them very well right now, but it's just something you got to do. You got to know the people you're working with.
Okay,
Absolutely.
folks. I'm being yelled at by my technical crew. They're like, it's 12:15 already. And I hate this because I could talk to you guys all day. But I do get to do your panel. Zach, are you going to do the panel with me when they show their movie?
When is the panel?
Folks, when are you screening?
We're screening tomorrow.
Yes, you are.
At 1 o'clock CST, I believe.
I'm so excited. I can't stand it. Yes, 1 o'clock tomorrow, and we can talk about that later. And I have tons and tons of questions. I cannot wait to show this movie. I'm so super excited. I sent you guys the links. Please join us all day today. We've got tons of films that are exciting. Feel free to chime in. Feel free to talk to us, the whole 9 yards. And I have to go change and put another dress on because that's what Cher would do because you have to do the whole 75 things. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Judy. I have to sign off of here and go right back onto Rocket Gibraltar and let my ticket holders know that we're late. Again, surprise, that's because I like to talk too much. Just kidding. I just like having you around. So I'm going to kick you off of this one. Come join us over at Rocket Gibraltar. You will not be sorry. Black and white feature film. Love, love, love this movie. Thank you guys for my first fun event of the day. We'll see you in about 5 minutes. Bye.